Candace Owens is a manipulative, attention-seeking, lying hoe who is happy to sell out one of her oldest friends just for attention and clickbait and all of the infamy that's coming with her imaginary way of telling the whole world that it was Israel behind Charlie Kirk's death. And if you haven't seen, there is an hour and 10 minute or 9 minutes, if we're being precise, video in which she not only uses a thumbnail with a picture of Netanyahu, but uses every manipulation trick in the book to try and get you to fall for it and think that yes, maybe it was the Jews behind the death and demise of Charlie Kirk. And my friends, that is not the case today. Despite it being super late here and I am exhausted, we are going to be reviewing this episode because I've been waiting for it to come out because I knew it was going to be full of such despicable, and honestly cheap manipulation tactics to try and get you to think something. We are going to go through as many of them as we can and just prove once again why Candace Owens is a terrible person. Are you guys ready? Get your coffee. It's going to be a long one, but we have a lot to discuss. So we'll start with the title, okay? The title very simply is You Are Being Lied To About Charlie Kirk. And then there is an image of her and Netanyahu. Interesting insinuation. You're being lied to, and a picture of Netanyahu. Let's watch her words and see how this whole thing began.
All right, you guys, we're going to jump right into this with no introduction. There's a lot that I would like to speak with you guys about.
This is an introduction.
Feedback, a lot of lies that are being put out there, narratives that I would say are half-truths or just misrepresentations entirely. And I don't really see the reason for that. First and foremost, to let you know, last week was not a dream. Charlie Kirk, my friend, is dead. And he was publicly executed. I want to make that clear. Charlie Kirk was publicly executed before the world. And as we are all searching for answers, the ones that are being supplied to us are not making a lot of sense. And some people, I would say, are speaking too much, are speaking on behalf of other people. I don't like it. I will say something that
You don't like it. And yet, here you are doing it. And this is number one tactic of Candace Owens. She'll point out behavior that she doesn't like other people doing whilst doing it directly herself. I don't like people speaking out too much about what happened to Charlie Kirk. Excuse me, BITCH, what are you doing constantly since he died, speaking out as if you are his mouthpiece? But you don't notice it because she's saying it about other people. So you think, oh, she must be right. And you don't notice that this is exactly her tactic.
brought the world a lot of relief, also, sadness. We were grieving with her, was when his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk, addressed not just the nation, but the entire world. Her words were very powerful. And we just have a very brief portion of her remarks, which you should pursue in their entirety. But here she is.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die.
Let's just take a second to talk about this because, first of all, it's a beautiful and moving piece by Erica. It's probably one of the most amazing pieces on cinema at the moment, in my opinion. Her line is so poignant. Her beauty is so obvious. Her strength just comes across. But once again, I want to point out that Candace could have started with any video, but she starts with this, okay? Because straight away, you're in an emotional place and you're in an angry place for this woman who is going through so much. And without you even noticing it, you are now equating and putting those feelings onto what Candace is about to say. You are now feeling like, yeah, his mission needs to be kept. And the next thing you're about to see is Candace. And that makes you think, oh, maybe his mission is Candace's mission, despite the fact that we have a huge amount of evidence at this point that those two things are not the same. But we'll get to that in a second.
Beautiful, powerful words. Charlie had just one wife. Well, we got to...
Just one wife. But Candace is going to spend this entire episode almost pretending that actually she was the number one person who was closest to Charlie. She's the number one person who was impacted by this. This is her story, not Erica's. She didn't bring a statement from Erica. She didn't talk to Erica about this episode or produce any sort of evidence of what Erica thinks about this disgusting abuse of Charlie's death to make it anti-Israel. And again, we'll talk in a second about if Charlie was against Israel or was for Israel, and we'll provide the proof and the facts for that. But watch how she cynically uses the emotions for you to put them onto her, so that you're just 10 times more susceptible to what she has to say.
Across this weekend is that there were so many people around the world, like she said, who were deeply moved by Charlie Kirk throughout their lives, and of course have been deeply moved by this tragedy. And what she is describing there, that fire, a lot of us are feeling it. I am definitely feeling it. I had a very tough weekend. I will say this, my entire life I've not been much of a crier. It is not my choice emotion. I'm not a person who bursts into tears.
Yeah, because you have no emotions, Candace.
Some people are like that. This weekend, I didn't just cry, I wept. I wept for Charlie, obviously. I didn't make it through the tribute to him on Friday. And for those of you who wanted to see me in a moment of weakness, that was delivered to you. Fair, yeah. I watched my friend get shot in the neck. Yeah, that's what happened. I just want to say that he was publicly executed again before the world. The question is why, right? You know, when you are in a state of grief, you go through a lot of emotions, and I'm arriving right now at a lot of anger. The audacity of some people. It has taken much restraint and prayer, and I had to speak with a priest. I had to go to confession. These emotions that I am having, wanting to respond with Charlie in his own words, really.
Okay, look again at what she's doing. This is all about me. I've had the hardest time. I wept, and I never weep, and I'm angry, and I had to go to confession because I'm a good person. But this thing has done something different to me. And because of that, because despite the fact that I'm always somebody who doesn't cry, this time I cried, therefore, you need to trust what I'm saying because I mean it. And the fact that I had to go to a priest means that I'm so committed to doing the right thing. These are all the subtle messagings that she's trying to portray and put before she jumps right to the jugular of where she wants to take you emotionally. This is so well curated, it's a joke.
People that are coming forward and saying this is what he thought and this is how he should be remembered. It just feels really inappropriate to me.
Watch. Did you hear what she just said? All these people coming forward saying, this is what he thought. This is how he should be remembered. That feels really inappropriate to me. But watch how by the end of this episode, she'll have made it very clear what she thinks Charlie thought and how she thinks he should be remembered. And again, you'll miss it because she's out there being like, how could anybody do this except for me? How could anybody do this except for me? How could anybody do this except for me? Making herself the only legitimate person to talk. Now, what I find really interesting is that she'll talk a lot about their friendship, but hasn't really provided any receipts for her friendship with him lately. And again, we'll talk about that when she starts talking about how close she is to Charlie.
I didn't know what to do other than to scroll through messages between me and Charlie, regarding which there are a ton of them.
Tons.
And
I'm so close to him. A ton of messages. I'm so close to him.
Kept going back and watching the many videos of us dancing to the song Power. And it felt appropriate to reach out to TA, speaking about things, talking about his mode when he wrote the song. You know, when you wrote the song Power, why did we have it as our hype song? Because The song is about the ability to find it within yourself to become what you know you are capable of becoming inside of a matrix, when you just realize everything is dishonest, that everything is performative, that people are dishonest, that they are going to try to stop you from being great.
Do you see this? Do you see? Number one, she's mentioned, oh, there are so many videos. Oh, there are so many messages. I just need to scroll through it. Yay. Yay. Yay was our person. Yay. You know who that is. Kanye, the anti-Semite, the Heil Hitler dude. Kanye, that was our person. That was our hype song. What an interesting thing to choose out of all of the memories of starting Turning Point and being on. She could speak about the many times that they sat down together and debated, etc., which would be very, very appropriate. But she brings up their commitment to Kanye's music. Again, super subtle, but we know Kanye to be the ultimate anti-Semite. And here she's going to talk about Power, this song. And she's going to go into how the whole point of power is being able to not fall for power. And she's just setting this really, really, really subtle ground for her to be able to say, look what's really going on. This is where Charlie really was. This was our hype song. She doesn't talk about their relationship with God right now. She doesn't talk about their nothing. None of the things that we know are actually Charlie's things. She's talking about Kanye's song. Interesting choice, don't you think? To set the tone of what's going to happen.
In fact, it's the end of the song. The question that he asks at the end of the song, that's the most important. Ye asks, do you have the power to let power go? Do you have the power to say no to power? You know, I told you guys that...
Do you have the power to say no to power? Insinuating, I did, and Charlie did, because we are the ones in this matrix who truly see the truth, who truly understand. Me and Charlie, we're one over the same. And this power that everybody has out there, we can stand up against it. Look at how good we are. So subtle, so manipulative. Actually, quite a work of art, if I may say so myself.
Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation at the end, and all of the usual suspects were really angry that I hinted towards that. What do you mean? You're not allowed to say that. They were attacking me, trying to make me fearful.
Doesn't provide any receipts. He's going through a spiritual transformation. But once again, she makes it about her. They were attacking me. They were targeting me. They were trying to make me afraid at the end. Because me and Charlie, we saw the light. We saw Charlie was one of ours. It's amazing. She just managed to make this about herself.
To speak out and speak about the things that I know. I'm not feeling very fearful right now. I am, like I said, very angry. And I found, Charlie's favorite portion of the song. I'll show you the text between him and I, because this feels very relevant right now. This is...
Okay, let's look at this. First of all, notice how she cut out the date. Okay? Cut out the date. This could have been from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And she just... You know what? I'm going to read the text for a second. I just needed time alone with my own thoughts. Got treasures on my mind, but couldn't open my own vault. My childlike creativity, purity, and honesty is honestly being crowded by these grown thoughts. Reality is catching up with me, taking my inner child and fighting for custody. With these responsibilities that they entrusted me. Okay, number one, we have no way of knowing if this is actually from Charlie. Number two, that text means nothing. It means nothing. He's saying, like, yeah, as an adult, I'm maturing, and but she's making it sound like, look, I'm changing. And she doesn't provide the date receipt, which I think would have been really easy to have shown that this was from a few days ago, if this is what he was really going through, a spiritual transformation that he had come to Candace for. And you've seen the footage of him basically saying, when he's asked about Candace and his opinions, and it's not directly insinuating this, but he's like, those kind of perspectives are demonic. He calls it out on stage a few weeks ago, and you can look it up. There's proof of it everywhere. But look at how first of all, she could have changed the name and the profile picture of any one of her contacts and put this in. But even if she didn't, even if this is from him, we have no idea when it's from. But you read this and you're like, wow, yeah, Charlie was coming to Candace with his transformation. What was that transformation, Candace? Give me the information. What was it?
Again, lyrics directly from the song Power, but I just needed time alone with my own thoughts, got treasures in my mind, but couldn't open up my own vault. My childlike creativity, purity, and honesty is honestly being crowded by these grown thoughts.
Means
reality
nothing.
is catching up with me. Taking my inner child, I'm fighting for custody with these responsibilities that they entrusted me. That's a moment where he is really speaking about how hard it is. Like when you're saying, no, this is what I believe. And they say, you're not allowed to believe that. You feel.
Actually, we don't know what moment this is. This could be the moment that he spoke about becoming a parent, or about choosing who he's going to get married to, or about turning point growing, or about a religious belief, or about anything. It could be anything out of context, anything. And this is, again, something that Candace does so well. She takes a piece of information, which could be true. We don't know that that text is real, but even if it is, and it means nothing, the text just doesn't mean anything, she takes it completely out of context, but then she directs you to think this must be the only context. And she's about to do that with Israel. She doesn't provide the rest of the story. She just makes you think, oh, look, he sent her this kind of text. Oh, I don't know what time it is, but she won't focus on that at all. She won't show the dates. But watch how she takes you. Look, he's going through a change. He's going through a custody thing.
Like
Amazing.
You are fighting for custody of yourself. And I want to be very clear that I believe, in fact, I know that towards the end, Charlie was fighting for custody of himself. I want to say,
I believe, in fact, I know. Okay, show me the receipts. What are you talking about? He was fighting for custody of himself? What the heck does that mean, Candace? What does it mean?
I want to say that plainly, and there are lies that are being told and they need to be slapped down right now. There's one person who's been out there acting.
Okay, there are lies that are being told, and now there's this one person who's been acting. Okay, so there are lies out there being told that needs to be smacked down right now. Who's lying, Candace? Who's lying? And she's now going to direct us into where she thinks the lies are coming from. And watch how she, obviously, you guys have already gathered and guessed who she's going to talk about. But here's the important thing. There were millions of people who responded to Charlie's death, and she's choosing one to focus in on. And lo and behold, surprise, surprise, it has something to do with her agendas on the matter.
Like he is a widow, just saying the absolute most, tweeting first about what happened to Charlie, following it minute to minute, and doing hits in a foreign country, like making time to do hits on Fox News, 2 of them. Bibi Netanyahu who's fighting, I think, like an 84 front war.
Okay. That's it. It started. It's beginning. Her ability to take all of that pain and all of that anger and all the frustration that we are all feeling at this death and say, there's so many lies, there's so much manipulation, there's so much going wrong. And it was Bibi Netanyahu. Look at him. He's fighting an 84 front war. Okay, exaggerating, mocking him. No sympathy for the fact that, oh my God, the Israelis might be going through a really, really hectic time right now. None of that, but look at this man. He's so busy with all these other things and he's focusing in on us. He's coming to do a whole bunch of interviews about Charlie. He must be the source of all the evil. He must be the lies that we're talking about. Now again, she brings up this thing a few times that Netanyahu responded straight away. And I want to talk about this for a second because first of all, he did. Good for him. But so did many other world leaders. Many world leaders. Hungary, Argentina. There were many world leaders who responded to Charlie's dying. Okay? Because specifically Hungary and Argentina and Israel, they're right-wing countries. And they understood the power of somebody like Charlie. And it meant a lot to them. And seeing Charlie being killed really shocked a lot of people. And Candace likes to think that she has a monopoly over being emotionally overwhelmed by this death. Like, this was mine, but this wasn't anybody else's, right? And Netanyahu has a right to have been shocked by this. I mean, he's a public speaker. He's probably somebody who's been threatened more than Candace and Charlie. And he's somebody who had a relationship with Charlie. But more than that, he is somebody who has a lot of respect and understanding for somebody who can build a movement and change a generation's mind. And Charlie did a lot of good for Israel. It's okay. It's okay for Netanyahu to respond and to have a say on it. And she's out there being like, how dare he? How dare he pay attention to it? I'll tell you something. I'm in Israel. Charlie dominated the news cycle, even though we're in a war, because it meant a lot. It was shocking to a lot of us. It was really, really, really hard to wrap our heads around the fact that somebody that loved us so dearly and really championed for us in a real way in a time that we have been so hated by so many people. There was somebody out there who really loved us, and it meant a lot to all of us and to our leader. And she's somehow managing to make that a negative thing. Like, Why does he care? Why isn't she calling out any of the other world leaders or any of the other people in the entire world who spoke about this death because it meant something? No, specifically she's coming for the jugular for Netanyahu because, as we know, she hates the Jews and she hates the Jewish people.
With everyone, made a lot of time for Charlie Kirk. You would have thought they were the best of friends, as close as him and Trump were. But I will say I don't recall Erica mentioning Bibi Netanyahu in her speech. The way he's presenting it is like he was this is just the worst loss for him, but I don't think that is the truth. In fact, I know for a fact that he is misrepresenting some things that happened there towards the end. So let's at first listen to what Bibi Netanyahu, just one day, less than 24 hours after Charlie died, what Bibi Netanyahu had to say on Fox News.
Look at how she says this with disgust. Like, how dare he speak about my friend Charlie after 24 hours? What a disgusting, vile thing to say. Instead of it actually being like, wow, Charlie meant so much to so many people that the leaders of other countries cared about who he was to the point that they were willing to go out there and talk about it. Holy moly, Charlie was amazing. By the way, that is a totally legit and credible vein to go down. Charlie's death means so much to so many people. This man had an enormous impact. But no. How dare he care about him? Let's use this. Let's use this to smear his name. Let's use this to hate on Israel. It's a work of art. It's a work of art.
Take a listen.
We're just heartbroken. Myself, my wife, my family, my son actually, on his 2019 visit to Israel, had lunch with him and his wife, Erica. We're shattered first as human beings because a great human being has been taken from us. Was an extraordinary friend. He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel. He did so many things to defend free speech. He had his truth. He stood up for it. But he said, you can come and debate me. He invited that debate. He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to silence him. And this is a worldwide problem. The people on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra progressives, they often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies, whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or they try to kill me here too. But they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just heartbreaking.
Who is they, BB? Who is they?
Who is they, Candace? Who is they, Candace? Because you're insinuating that they are behind Charlie's death. And then the first person that you bring to talk in is Netanyahu, showing this thing. Now, you're about to go into a crazy, crazy rant about how this letter was out of context, etc. And if any of you have been on Twitter, you'll see that she's been going on that Netanyahu had offered Charlie Kirk $150,000 to turn Turning Point into a pro-Israel movement, etc. Obviously providing no sort of proof for this. But watch how she's like, who's they, Bibi? And she herself is insinuating exactly who they is. But again, using her own tactics so that you don't notice her doing it on somebody else.
Who got Charlie Kirk? We don't have to actually speak conspiracies. I'm just wondering, because you said a lot there, but it really sounded like it was about Bibi trying to establish a narrative that we saw reinforced by a lot of people.
We don't want to talk about conspiracy theories. No. Candace doesn't want to speak about conspiracies. Never.
That, Charlie kind of made it almost sound like he died for Israel. I mean, Trump's account even tweeted out a photo of Charlie an American flag and also an Israeli flag, a bit of AI used, like this is just who Charlie was. He says Judeo-Christian values. He spoke to him 2 weeks ago. Again, you would think he was busy fighting this 97,000 front war, but no, he's letting you know that he just randomly picks up the phone and calls Charlie Kirk and invites him to Israel?
No, none of this was random. There was a lot going on behind the scenes, but once again, Candace has managed to thwart this and warp it. There's an Israel and American flag. How dare Trump post that as if Israel controls America? Wait a second. Charlie's whole thing was God, faith, family, and country. And surprise, surprise, Israel is actually the symbol not of world manipulation, but of faith. It's where Jesus walked. It's where Jesus had his entire life. It's where Charlie came back time and time and time again to visit because he was connected to the God of Israel, to the land. He's a Christian. He actually really cared about it. Something that Candace pretends to, but she's obviously off her rocker and not actually deeply interested in religion. Charlie, time and time and time again, spoke about his faith. And that's what Israel symbolizes to most thinking people, a country with a huge amount of history and faith and love of God and connection to God. So if Charlie's standing there with a flag of Israel and of America, it's not because Israel's manipulating him. It's because he can see what Israel actually is. That's not a negative thing, Candace. It's never been a negative thing. And yet here you are managing to warp this and make it sound like, ooh, Israel's controlling Charlie. Who said that? Now we're going to talk about the context, okay? And she's going to bring this up, like how this whole thing happened and why Bibi called. And I have to say that first of all, this country is in a 7-front. At this point, it's reaching like 10-front war. We are dealing with a lot. But Netanyahu has got not a lot of time, but has a big focus on other things as well. Like, did you know he's in trial right now? He spends hours of his week at trial. Because believe it or not, whilst he's navigating and managing these wars, there are other things going on that he deals with at the same time. And I'll tell you this, the image of Israel, despite it seeming like Israel is doing a really bad PR job, the image of Israel is important to Netanyahu. And again, they don't have a great PR strategy at the moment, but it could be that somebody like Charlie Kirk is worth Netanyahu's time because of the immense amount of value that Charlie brought to the table, because of the hundreds of thousands of voters. And yes, because of everything that went down with the Turning Point big conference. And a lot went down, and we're going to talk about it. But just watch, pay attention to how she manipulates everything to be negative and against Israel instead of actually presenting the facts and opening debate for a conversation.
Why would Bibi do that? It seems like maybe there's a little more to the story. No, there definitely is a little bit more to the story. First and foremost, that letter he is holding up, he is severely misrepresenting. Those sentences are real, but I am calling upon Bibi Netanyahu, the dear friend to Charlie Kirk, to publish the letter's entire contents. Like, don't start with just 2 sentences. Publish the entire thing.
Can I just say how absolutely conceited she is to think that she has a right to demand of Bibi Netanyahu to do something? Excuse me, just because she's gotten used to being able to manipulate the whole Macron thing and she's used to Trump calling her, etc., she thinks that she can call on the leader of another country and be like, hey, you should do this. And by the way, she thinks that she has the right to decide why the leader of a different country wants to share certain pieces of information versus not. You know what? Like, okay, we'll get to it in a second because I'm so mad.
You're holding it. I'm saying you're severely misrepresenting the contents that in May, Charlie was concerned about Israel and their influence on American politics and how they were pushing things that he felt were in conflict with his beliefs, free speech here in America. Bibi's holding it up like Charlie just in May said, hey, you know what? I just want to write a love letter to Israel. That's how it was presented. Would you guys agree? That's not how it happened.
Why doesn't Candace present the letter right now? I mean, it would seem like she has so much evidence about what was in this letter. And by the way, I happen to agree that potentially this letter wasn't massively positive for Israel, and Netanyahu didn't want to talk about that. But could you imagine, can you just think for yourself, if Netanyahu got up on an interview 24 hours after Charlie Kirk died, and Charlie Kirk cared for Israel immensely, and he read an entire letter in which it was Charlie Kirk sharing, potentially, some of the things that were bothering him about Israel right now. Is that the way to remember somebody? Somebody who devoted their life to faith and God and religion and family. Is that the right thing to do? See, she won't let you think that for a second. She won't let you take that route. She won't. You know, like when somebody is talking about somebody who died, we don't tend to bring up all of the bad things as well. We tend to focus on the positive. We tend to focus on the good. And it is no surprise that if that letter was full of uncomfortable things, that Netanyahu didn't choose this exact moment right after his death to air some of the dirty laundry with Charlie. Is that possible? Would that make sense? Would that be in the realm of reality? Of course it would be. Of course it is. And even if this letter, and I'm not saying it is, and I'm saying it is highly suspicious that Candace Owens knows so much about the letter but won't read it herself. Because with all of her spies at Turning Point USA, couldn't she figure out some way to get her hands on this letter? But no, she's insinuating that this letter was deeply manipulated. But for Netanyahu to pull out 2 lines and to say, look, things were a little bit complicated, but he didn't have to say that. To just say Charlie was a friend of Israel and we will miss him and we loved him because he was a true friend of Israel. Maybe he didn't need to bring up all of the other stuff going on. That is a totally legitimate argument. Totally. But she's not saying that. She's just saying, oh, look, Netanyahu is trying to lie to us. He's trying to manipulate us. Well, actually, this might be the normal way of doing things. That when somebody dies, instead of using their death cynically and horribly, you actually try and respect their memory, Candace. And this is something that you seem to have no understanding about. Because you're willing to say continuously throughout this video how Charlie was turning on Israel and nobody liked it. But what you won't talk about is the fact that, yes, potentially Charlie might have had issues with the politics on the ground here. It's possible. I'm not saying that he did or he didn't. You know why? Because I wasn't there. I wasn't there and I don't know for a fact. But what we do know is that he loved Israel and he hated the anti-Semitism that was going on online. And he was highly involved in conversations with a lot of people. And he was potentially, I actually met with somebody today who showed me receipts in text messages that Charlie was actually thinking about coming to a combating anti-Semitism conference happening here in January. That was part of the Netanyahu conversation. They were inviting him to come to a conference to talk about combating anti-Semitism because who better than Charlie, who has this massive platform and understands the right and the left and what's going on and who's fought so hard for his values. It's unbelievable to see. It's unbelievable to see that you won't respect his memory enough to actually just push the idea that Charlie loved Israel. And even if he had issues with it, he did. He cared about it so intrinsically. It was a huge amount of his work and the things that he did. And that's okay. And even if he was changing his mind on some nuanced political things towards the end, so be it. So be it.
Now, regarding that phone call and that invite, that also needs to be contextualized. And I'm going to do that. But first, Skylar, can we bring in a clip of Charlie from a month ago speaking about the kind of pressure that he was under? Because I think that will also help to further contextualize this. Take a listen.
I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But like some of the mess, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's
been
almost
so
as if
unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the 5th time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no. I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper-paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? Like, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I'm starting to see a pattern of behavior similar to what my grandparents saw in 1930s Germany online? How would I behave? So that's like my charitable kind of overcompensation spirit. At the same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
No, it's not defensible to be dumb, and he was under an increasing amount of pressure, not just people telling him, oh, well, you know, I'm upset with who you're inviting, but flat out telling him that he was not allowed to invite certain people to his events.
Okay, let's talk about this for a second, because I want to talk about the Turning Point USA conference, and I want to talk about this as somebody who's actually a bit of an expert in free speech, okay? Because some of you may or may not know this, I used to work for a free speech platform, and I spent a huge amount of time with actually a lot of these content creators listening and hearing and understanding their perspectives on stuff. We won't get into the details of that, but we do need to talk about this. Charlie Kirk got on with Megyn Kelly and spoke about how unbelievably frustrating he has found it that people are so mad at him about this conference. So what happened in the conference? Turning Point USA is massively, massively funded by a lot of evangelical Christians and I think some Jewish people who have a lot of money, and they've been giving money to Turning Point. Now, a big part of Charlie's appeal and Charlie's capabilities and Charlie's magic was the fact that he was such an enormous influence on young Gen Z voters. He is a huge part of why Trump won. Okay, we all know that. It's clear. It's a huge part of why he's on Air Force One and why everybody adored him and knew who he was. He was really a person who spoke to the younger generation. Now, a lot of the people behind funding of Turning Point USA feel very, very, very strongly that there's a lot of things going on in the air to manipulate against Israel, and they're all one of the same. Fighting the left is of super importance, which is in essence what Turning Point USA does. Pushing of religion and connecting to God is a huge part of what they do, but they also have this understanding of what we speak about on this channel all the time, that the Israel-Palestine issue is actually all one of the same of this kind of anti-America rhetoric. Okay? Now, at this conference, for those who aren't familiar, he brought Tucker Carlson to speak, and Tucker Carlson gave a nasty speech. And he also brought Dave Smith, you all know him, he's a psycho person, even though Charlie Kirk's death has thrown him a bit, to debate a guy called Josh Hammer, a pro-Israel friend of mine, somebody that I know. They sat down on a stage and they had this whole debate, and Josh was booed a lot, and other people were booed a lot, and it was a whole big thing. Now, why? Why did they have this debate? Because Charlie Kirk's number one belief was free speech. He used to say this all of the time. And this was something that I used to get a lot of hate for, because people would say to me, how could you work for a free speech platform? What about Nazis? What about anti-Israel people? And I would always say, look, at the end of the day, you have to be able to discuss and debate ideas. Because if you are the person who says that people shouldn't be allowed to say certain things, then one day somebody will say that about you, and then your voice will be silenced. And that is massively problematic. And so Charlie Kirk believed in his essence and in his core that you should be able to debate. And nowadays, with so much of the young right turning towards this anti-Semitic rhetoric, like this Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens thing, he felt that you should bring both sides to debate. Again, a huge amount of the people who support him felt that whilst free speech is important, growing anti-Semitism is more of a problem. And this growing pro-Palestinian movement is more of a problem. Why? Because it's, number one, an indicator of massive Qatar influence, as we know. Why are people hating on Israel so much? Why are they saying it? But number two, part of this organization, and part of the reason they were funding this organization, is to create a united pro-Western values group of young people. Okay, that was the point. And so Charlie was under a lot of pressure. Now, I think there is a problem within the Jewish community and within the pro-Israel community that people get really, really afraid of debate. Okay, they do. They just get afraid of it. And I don't know if it's because they feel like maybe they can't handle a debate. I don't feel that way. I'm happy to debate anyone and anything, honestly. But there's this fear. And this fear was coming, and there was a lot of anger at Charlie because he, as Charlie Kirk, understands the importance of ideas and the influence of ideas, and he knows how deeply susceptible young people are. And him platforming these kind of really anti-Israel ideas was really, really nerve-wracking to a lot of the donors who, for the reason they are giving money to Turning Point USA is because they believe in the ideals, right? I don't give money to Palestinians because I don't believe in the Palestinians. And I do give money to conservative things and to Jewish things because I believe in that. And if I was to find out that there was a conservative movement that I was funding that was supporting Palestinians, that would be a problem for me, and I would decide to pull back. So a lot of people were feeling a huge amount of frustration after this event. This is the context that Candace isn't really bringing, in which it is very okay and very acceptable and very normal for people to be feeling very, very frustrated. Was their treatment of Charlie Kirk okay? Probably not. Reaching out to somebody and freaking out about what he's doing Not great, not great. And I think a lot of people had this feeling of, oh, maybe I'll be able to convince him to do differently. But they didn't understand, and they still don't understand, the importance of free speech to American conservatives. This is something that I've seen across the board. It is really, really important to them. And again, there is this belief that you should be able to bring anybody and anyone onto a stage and debate them and let people hear and make their own opinions. And yes, some people are just really not comfortable with that, okay? That's the context. And Charlie was experiencing a lot of pressure, not just from this event, but also donors afterwards who were saying, wait a second, Charlie, what are you doing with Turning Point USA? Why are you platforming people like Candace? Why are you platforming people like Tucker? Because both Tucker and Candace have proven themselves to be vile, vehement anti-Semites, anti-Israel people, part of a very niche and disgusting group of conservatives. And we don't want these ideas pushed on the young people. We just don't want them, in the same way that we don't want transgender ideals pushed on young people. Even though Charlie Kirk was a big believer in free speech, he didn't believe that you should manipulate little kids into understanding about genders, etc. And so these funders, these people who were giving money, were saying like, I don't know if I like this. And that to me is a totally acceptable question. The question of, is free speech more important than hate speech? And some people think this way and some people think that way. Charlie Kirk believed one way and he was getting a lot of flack for that. Again, remember, Turning Point USA is a Christian organization, and people who are Judeo-Christians believe that loving Israel is one of the highest values that you can have as a Christian. They truly believe that and feel that, and it's understandable. It's correct. Loving the Jewish people is of super high importance. So when you're bringing somebody onto stage who is saying the complete opposite, that negates the religion that they were hoping Turning Point USA was going to bring into the world. That is the really important context here. Really important. But she's going to make it sound like, look, Charlie was being persecuted. No, Charlie made a very contentious decision. And there is many opinions. And there is truth on both sides. Truth on both sides. He was platforming people, and maybe he was having his own debates at the moment of what's going on. Look, I'll say, she doesn't even have to bring the clip. I don't think she does. But Charlie came out massively against the Jewish people who are supporting left-wing ideals in America. Massively. He was massively against it. And he was starting to ask questions about AIPAC and influence on America. I know he was not super excited about the Iran war, and he didn't feel that America should be going out of its way to attack Iran, etc. And there's complications there. Charlie had different opinions, but none of that negates the fact that Charlie loved Israel, loved it, and loved the Jewish people, and believed in the Jewish people, and was doing everything in his power to try and figure out how to help the Jewish people. And I think that's part of why he had this interview, because it was so painful to him that so many people were angry at him, in which he was saying, I have my own values. I have the value of free speech, and that is an important value to me. That's what he's saying with Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly is agreeing, being like, this is really frustrating that people are attacking you for standing up for what you believe in, which is the reason that people love you. But some people are misguided, and some people don't have the same values of free speech. That is the context to this.
Were threatening to pull out money. Charlie was getting a lot of really nasty text messages, and many of them pertaining to Tucker Carlson.
Correct.
And Candace Owens. But Tucker Carlson was really the focus when it came to America Fest. How could Charlie allow these debates about Israel to take place? How could he allow Dave Smith, who, by the way, is Jewish, how could how could Charlie allow this other position to meet the stage? Because obviously when people start to hear the debates, what Dave Smith is saying sounds so rational, but it was up to Charlie to not allow those things to happen. And that amount of pressure towards the end, as you see that conversation he had with Megyn was just a month before he lost his life, really, I would say, reached a pinnacle of sorts on the matter of what Tucker Carlson actually said on that stage. Tucker Carlson, while he was on that stage at Turning Point, brought up Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman is a billionaire, obviously. He is also an extremely litigious billionaire. And Bill Ackman was on Charlie about comments that Tucker Carlson had made on that stage. Tucker Carlson specifically asked the question, where does Bill Ackman's money come from? You know, who is this guy? Actually, who is this guy that has this much influence? And like I said, Bill Ackman was not happy about this. And so I would like to contextualize Bibi. Again, these are things Bibi.
Okay, wait. So she's bringing up this guy, Bill Ackman, who's an amazing billionaire who supports a huge amount of initiatives. He's online. He's right-wing. He, by the way, offered $1 million to anybody who could help find Charlie's murderer. By the way, Candace did not, important to note. And she is going to start spreading literal libels behind Bill. And we're going to read Bill's response because I think it's super, super important to hear what Bill actually has to say. But can I just say, if you're a billionaire and you're somebody who doesn't really want everybody knowing about you, and you have Tucker Carlson getting on a stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people and smearing your name, and you're supporting the organization that brought this person on who is smearing your name, would you not have a problem with that? Forget being Jewish, forget all of that. Would that not bother you? Because I can tell you for a fact that if I was supporting an organization that brought on one of their keynote speakers and that speaker went after me, I would be furious. Absolutely furious. This is obviously the kind of thing that Candace just forgets to mention. It's like, oh, Bill, who is this guy? He is, this manipulative billionaire behind the scenes that Tucker Carlson was just asking fair questions about. Wait a second. I don't know if you've ever been to a fundraising event, but you take respecting the people who are donating to you very seriously. These are people who have taken their own money and they're giving it to you because they believe in your initiative. Have some respect for that. And if Tucker Carlson went after one of Charlie Kirk's funders, and we don't even know if Bill gives money to Turning Point, I have literally no idea, but she makes it sound like he does, then maybe that would be a problem. Maybe that would be something that would make Charlie's donors upset. Like, that is a legit thought. That is okay. But she's coming after this Jewish philanthropist, and she's coming after him hard. Very hard. Let's see.
Brought up publicly, which he didn't have to. He didn't have to bring up the letter. He didn't have to bring up the phone call, but he chose to do this less than 24 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot.
Ugh.
Personally, BB, I would have appreciated if you guys used all of your spyware, you'd spying on us for years, to maybe track down the killer. But I guess this is where you thought it was best to do a little propaganda for Israel would be better than us helping us track down the killer.
By the way, you have no idea if Israel helped track down the killer or not. You have no idea what intelligence was used or if we were involved. You have no idea. But she's insinuating that we didn't. Who knows? No receipts for this claim. No proof. Nothing. It's very, very possible that Israel did help find the killer. We don't know. But here she is being like, Bibi, if only you would do the right thing. Excuse me? Maybe he did both. Maybe he did both. But we won't know. And this is just, again, the kind of thing that she'll drip and throw out so that you stop paying attention and stop thinking for yourself about what's actually going on. It's amazing.
But anyway, so Bibi Netanyahu and that phone call, what took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life. Charlie was in the Hamptons and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman.
Notice how Candace was not invited to this event.
Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no.
We don't know that either. Bill apparently instigated an intervention because of Charlie's thoughts. We have no proof of that. We have no idea if that's true. She's just saying it. She's just decided that's the reason that this meeting happened.
This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset and threats were made.
Really?
That is what I am told. And I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you. And he did not provide the receipts. This is not how it went down.
Okay, well, let's read Bill Ackman's response, because watch how she's like, we asked him for a response. Number one, why should Bill respond to you? You're such a bitch. He has no obligation to do so. None. But you're out there like, we have the proof. This is what I've been told. By who? Show the receipts. Show us the conversation. Show us the person who was there who told you this. No, I don't have to do that. But Bill has to provide the receipts. I don't have to provide receipts for all the things I'm insinuating, but he does. Unbelievably manipulative. But let's read what he has to say. bear with me because it's a long post, and if you're tired and exhausted, it's been almost an hour. We're just beginning because she has so many lies up her sleeve, but let's read it. Bill Ackman pinned to his Twitter, okay? This afternoon, real Candace O slandered me by accusing me of staging an intervention with Charlie Kirk in which threats were made with respect to his supposed evolving stance on Israel at an event I hosted in the Hamptons. Candace also intimated that I blackmailed Charlie. On the show, Candace said that she would be very happy for me to dispute this narrative. Whilst it pains me to drive more traffic to her program, I am responding here to clear my name. It saddens me that we live in a society where social media influencers seek to monetize the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. By the way, later on in this episode, she reads adverts. I think that is just disgusting. She reads adverts during this episode, knowing that she'll have a huge amount of traffic to her. Totally monetizing on his death. Ugh. Okay, back to his Twitter. For the record, at no time have I ever threatened Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, or anyone associated with him. I have never blackmailed anyone, let alone Charlie Kirk. I have never offered Charlie or Turning Point any money in an attempt to influence Charlie's opinion on anything. In fact, my interactions with Charlie Kirk have been extremely cordial, albeit limited, regretfully so, as I was very impressed by him and his work, and I will sadly never see him again. In an effort to clear the record, I share the following. I have followed Charlie Kirk on X for some time and greatly admired him. While I didn't agree with Charlie on every issue, I had enormous respect for his intelligence, vast knowledge about religion, and his willingness to take on all comers in an open mic session on campus and otherwise. Periodically, I would repost some of his posts and video clips. I connected with Charlie when he DM'd me in late May of this year and expressed interest in meeting me. In light of our respective schedules, we were unable to find a time to meet in person, so we scheduled a Zoom on June 11th. On the Zoom, he explained to me that conservatives, in particular young conservatives, were getting tired of defending Israel, and this was very concerning to him. I asked him how I could learn more, and he suggested that it might be useful to convene a group of young conservative influencers on a host of topics that could include Israel to get a better sense of how the conservative community was thinking about Israel and other relevant issues of concern to young people. On the Zoom, Charlie also said that his open mic conversations on campus were very effective in addressing issues on the minds of students, but he was only one person with limited bandwidth. He suggested that recruiting a group of young junior Charlie Kirks who could host open mic sessions on college campuses would be an effective way to encourage debate on a host of issues, an approach he believed to be worthy of consideration and better enable students to get to the truth. This all sounds like the Charlie that we knew. I expressed interest in learning more, and we thereafter scheduled a series of conference calls and Zooms with Charlie, Turning Point staff, and members of my team in an effort to assemble a diverse group of influencers who we can convene for a day and a half session. In addition to getting a better sense of what and where young conservatives were on various issues, Charlie thought doing so might enable him to identify potential candidates who could launch their own campus tours and carry forth his approach on dialogue. We chose the afternoon of August 4th to the afternoon of the 5th for the convening, and Charlie and members of his team worked to put together an invitation list. I offered to host the sessions in Bridgehampton and cover the costs, that's nice of him, so that I could attend some of the sessions as I was working from there at the time. Charlie sent out the invitation and about 35 or so influencers accepted. Charlie estimated that the influencers who attended collectively had more than 100 million followers. Charlie and Turning Point put together the agenda for the meeting, and the topics were the economic future of America, the cultural landscape of dating and marriage, the convergence of East and West Mamdani, the new threat to America. No, the convergence of East and West, Mamdani, the new threat to America. Charlie asked me to moderate an economic forum discussion, which I did, and I thereafter hosted a Q&A session with the participants. The conversion of East and West included a discussion of immigration, value systems, the U.S. approach to foreign policy, and Israel. While I had wanted to attend the convergence panel, I had a board meeting that conflicted with this session. Those that attended the session said that Israel discussion was similar to the other sessions, with the attendees expressing varying points of views as well as explaining the views of their followers. Some participants were critical of Israel and U.S. support for Israel, and others were supportive. Sounds like America. The session was punctuated by meals. I attended one group lunch and a group dinner where I sat with Charlie and others. By the way, everything that he's saying right now can be corroborated by all of the influencers who were at this event. Right? So Candace is going up against something that's really dangerous. I found the sessions I attended interesting and I really enjoyed meeting the influencers. It gave me considerable perspective on what is on the mind of young Americans on a wide range of issues. At the end of the event, I sat with Charlie and members of my team and we discussed the events of the convening. Charlie believed that he identified a number of potential turning point ambassadors who could launch open mic events on campus and that he would follow up with them. We agreed to keep in touch thereafter. We corresponded by text over the next few weeks on a range of topics that did not include Israel, and the next thing I knew, he was gone. In short, this was not an intervention to blackmail Charlie Kirk into adopting certain thoughts in Israel. It was nothing of the sort. Okay? That's Bill's response. Basically saying in a super dignified way, Candace, I don't want to come on your show and I don't want to give you more attention, but this is what happened. And there were 35 people there. And every single one of those people could tell you that this is what happened. And there was no intervention. Now, okay, wait. The cake, the cherry on top of the cake is coming in a second. Let's continue.
I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way.
It's now on record.
It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say, because I've been in these situations before. When I started...
Because it's all about me. I just want you to know that the text that I read today made it sound like Charlie was super excited to come to Israel. Super excited. He was over for it. He was trying to figure out if he could make the dates work. It didn't sound like he was under duress. It didn't sound like he had been forced or manipulated. It sounded like he was like, you know what, this is a topic that I really care about. Pesach Walaki, a rabbi, said that the night before he was murdered, he had a conversation with him in which it was trying to figure out how to help Israel tackle the anti-Israel narrative on the right. Look, I think that Charlie had issues with the things that were going on with Israel. By the way, I have issues with the things going on in Israel. That's okay. You're allowed to. But at the end of the day, that doesn't negate the support for Israel and winning the war and fighting against Hamas and fighting against radical terror and fighting against the left and the manipulation and all those things. And he believed in free speech as well, so he allowed for debate. She has taken all of this and warped it so far. And by the way, wait, there's more good stuff coming.
Asking very sensible questions about Israel as someone who had dedicated her political life to supporting Israel many times alongside Charlie Kirk. I was met with the very same pressure. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like a threat. You know, I got to tell you that. It felt like a threat, like not like, hey, come here and we can educate you because you're my friend. More like, this is your last chance. That's how it felt to me. I can't speak to how it felt for Charlie.
No, and I can't speak to how it felt for Charlie, but this is my experiences and we had the same experience. But I can't speak for how it felt to him, but I was under duress. But I can't speak to how it spoke to him, but I felt this and experienced this. With no facts, with no backing.
Know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment. A ton of money. Bibi would fund it, you know. Spend tons of money. And Turning Point, I guess, if it needed to go to a higher level, would have gone to an even higher level than it already was at. And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding. That Charlie denied, and what Bibi didn't include there, he declined to go to Israel for, I would describe this as like, you know, re-education camp. You know, we've seen it.
We don't know that he declined it because all the proof that I've seen of the people who are organizing the conference that he was supposed to come to said that Charlie was very, very much considering it. And they were just trying to figure out the scheduling. There is no proof that he denied it. And by the way, how are we going to know? Provide the receipts. Candace, provide the text from Charlie saying, hey, Israel tried to get me to come. They're manipulating me. I don't want to go. No receipts. She'll always demand receipts of others, but she doesn't provide any of herself. I know for a fact that he denied. You don't know for a fact. You don't. Well, tell us. Show us the evidence.
You made an uh-oh, but we can help you. You know, we just need you to come out to Auschwitz and take a picture. Yeah. We just need you to come to the Holocaust Museum and take a photo. We just need you to go to Israel and we can make this better. Charlie said no to Bibi. Okay. Bill Ackman, if you would like to dispute that, I would love to hear what you say happened because our sources and what we have, it's solid.
This is pure gaslighting and fearmongering. She's like, I have all the sources. I provided on them, but it's solid. And she's making everybody afraid. Everything I have, it's solid. It's real. I haven't provided any sort of zero, zilch proof. Zilch. She's managed to make Charlie Kirk's death about a billionaire philanthropist who's pro-Israel. Is she afraid of his power? Probably. Is she uncomfortable with his abilities? Maybe. I don't know why she's so threatened. But instead of talking about Charlie Kirk's death and the lefty insanity and everything that's going on, she has managed to make this about Bill Ackman. It is, and no one's calling her out for it. Like, it's just, yeah, of course. No evidence. Literally zero evidence.
Okay. There were conversations that took place, messages that were sent at that time, and they are solid. So
show them.
I decided another person that was there, and I am not surprised this person was there. If you've been listening to my show, Seth Dillon. I was going to go out to Seth Dillon, and I decided to message him last night about this Hamptons meeting. And Seth Dillon, who is normally very quick with a response, has not yet been able to respond. I'll show you this text message chain. And I want to be clear, I am not someone who normally publicizes text messages.
I'm not somebody who normally publicizes text messages, but I'm going to. I'm not someone who normally does, but I'm going to. I don't do this terrible thing, but I'm about to. But I don't, again, gaslighting you, manipulating you.
But my friend was shot in the neck. And I'm just not really in the state right now to be polite when it comes to the answers that I am demanding, okay? This is me out to Seth Dillon last night. I sent him Bill Ackman's tweet because, he tweeted, I feel incredibly privileged to have spent a day and shared a meal with Charlie Kirk this summer. He was a giant of a man. I said, any comment on this one, Seth? He didn't answer last night. This morning I said, need a comment ASAP, please. He didn't answer. Then I followed that up and I said, trying again here, you were present when Ackman lost his mind on Charlie and when Bibi invited him to Israel and Charlie refused. Text messages immediately following this meeting are circulating. I find Ackman's statement, as though the meeting was somehow cordial, to be incredibly disturbing. Are you at all disturbed by that tweet? Do you feel, as I do, that this tweet significantly betrays the defined purpose and mood of his, and I presume your, final meeting with Charlie Kirk, ? He was unable to speak to me, but he did place some frantic calls to Turning Point USA. Yeah.
By the way, because Seth is obligated to respond to you. Of course. Now, I want to talk about this because she's going to go on that people in Turning Point USA said it's there were 35 people there, okay? And as of today, this guy called Andrew Colvett, who was Charlie Kirk's executive producer, I think that was the job description, okay? Probably one of the closest people to Charlie, and he was with him the entire time. He releases a statement. Seth Dillon doesn't respond because why would you respond to Candace? She's just trying to defile your name. Everybody knows that. But this is Andrew Colvett's tweet, okay? Can you see it? It's Andrew Colvett's tweet. I have been asked about the Bill Ackman event more than a few times now, so I asked our staff who were traveling with Charlie to find out what's true and what's not. His team was with him 100% of the time when he wasn't in his hotel room. Here's what they told me. Bill never yelled at Charlie, never pressed him on Bibi, never gave him a list of Charlie's offenses against Israel. There was concerns raised about having Tucker at SAS. We don't believe that this actually came from Bill. And Charlie's reply was, honestly, people telling me not to have Tucker makes me want to have Tucker, and so I'm going to lock him in for the AmFest too. Charlie personally told me that he had a very cordial relationship with Bill and the event was productive. Those are the facts. Josh Hammer, the guy who debated Dave Smith on stage, then reposted this and wrote, I was also there, and everything Andrew says is accurate. So we now have two people who were there. Andrew wasn't, but he's talking on behalf of the team that were there, saying none of what was said is true. That should be enough, right? That should be enough. But watch how she's not gonna talk about any of that because that exposes her for being a liar.
You see, I went out to Seth, but I also went out to two other people who were at this meeting, and nobody is willing to go on record. They're all messaging each other, trying to figure out a coordinated response to say that, no, this was all quite cordial, but no one wants to go on record and describe it as cordial because they know someone's leaking, because someone's got a guilty conscience about what happened at the Hamptons.
Speculative, 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 speculative. No evidence for this. She speculative. They're all trying to figure out how to get. Maybe they just don't want to talk to you because they are so horrified and disgusted by your abuse of his death, pretending to be his friend whilst going out there and totally besmirching everything that he loved. Maybe they don't want to talk to you, but they're out there on Twitter being very clear about what happened. Maybe, Candace, you are not the sun, the moon, and the stars, and maybe not everybody wants to bow down to you. Instead of you insinuating lie after lie after lie, look, this is what happened, this is what happened, you don't know. And you're just making it up.
So I will again put it out there, Seth, Bill Ackman, and to the other individuals who I have not yet named, but who are going to be named later this week.
Scaring everybody.
We're at the Hamptons when Charlie was put under pressure. When Bibi Netanyahu called him and invited him to Israel, again, in a move that when it happened to me, and it wasn't Bibi Netanyahu, felt to me like a laced threat.
It would have happened to me.
I am inviting you guys. I will give you my platform, actually, to come clear matters up, to tell us what really happened. Because, I think Charlie was definitely on the brink of changing some of his perspectives. And I can tell you factually, Charlie was praying the rosary. Charlie was going to mass. One of my last conversations with Charlie was me joking with him saying, just make the last step, okay? You are, I said specifically, you're too smart to be a Protestant. Just take the last step, Charlie. And he says, ha ha. He was speaking about Mary. And typically when those steps start taking place, you stop referring to yourself, as I did, as a Judeo-Christian.
He said, haha. That was his response. That, first of all, it's a text response. No one goes, haha, in a response. But what else did he say? Did he maybe say to you, that's not what he's doing, that is what he's doing? Give us the context for the conversation, Candace. Share more. Tell us what else happened. He laughed at you. Was he laughing at you jokingly, or was he agreeing with you? Was he disagreeing with you? You're insinuating that he was agreeing with you by going, haha. But what actually happened? Really? Enlighten us, Candace, on your depth of your relationship with Charlie. Because again, I haven't seen much evidence and proof of you being super close to him in the end. You just keep on talking and talking and talking about your best friend. Provide us a little bit more evidence, Candace. That's what you want from everybody else. I'm just asking the same from you.
Again, it is mystifying why, Bibi was out there doing the absolute most to make sure that Charlie was basically remembered as, I would argue, like a Jew, has not been yet mentioned. I didn't hear that. Erica was very clear that Charlie was a Christian.
No. Bibi did not push that he was a Jew. Ever. Not once. He spoke about him being a Judeo-Christian in the clip that you showed at the beginning. Like, you showed it, but you're manipulating and gaslighting people to be like, oh my God, Bibi only cares about the Jew. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Yesterday, tens of Christians convened in the opening of the David place where they figured out the archaeological pathway from the pilgrimage road to the Temple Mount. And there were Christians there who were celebrating it because it's so beautiful and such an important moment. Marco Rubio is there and Huckabee is there, and the relationship with them couldn't be better. And you're out here smearing the living daylights out of Bibi, being like, he just wants Charlie to be a Jew. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Where did that come from?
Believe Charlie obviously was very much a Christian, and that things are not being told truthfully. In fact, I will also call upon, since we're having fun, Turning Point USA to release the audio of what Charlie Kirk, because I was in communication with Charlie at this time, because I knew exactly which donors were pressuring him and why.
Name them.
Exactly which people that they were insisting Charlie allowed to speak at his event and why, when Charlie did not necessarily want those people to speak at his event. Okay. I'm calling upon Turning Point to release the footage of what Charlie said to Tucker Carlson before he hit the stage, before, all of that craziness and the response to Tucker Carlson's remarks played out. Charlie was mic'd. Surely Tucker Carlson was mic'd. I know Charlie's mic'd the entire time at those events. So I'm asking for everyone to just release Charlie in his own words. I feel like that's pretty fair, right?
Actually, it's not fair at all for you to decide what Turning Point should be released into the public or not. And FYI, if Charlie Kirk loved Tucker and wanted Tucker on his platform, that is 100% his prerogative. You're an asshole, Candace. You're an asshole for making this sound so negative. It's very, very simple. There is free speech, and Charlie believed in free speech, and a lot of his people felt that Tucker, who is clearly a Qatar agent, who's being funded by Qatar, shouldn't be given a massive platform to impact people's ideas. That's what they felt, and they fought with him on it, and that was their prerogative, and his prerogative to say no. And they put pressure on him, hoping he changed his mind, and he didn't, and good for him. Let's celebrate that. That's it.
Let's stop saying how Charlie felt, and instead, if you're going to hold up the letter, release it in its entirety, okay? Why don't you release your messages, Bill? I'll release mine. Let's all just be very forthcoming about what took place. In fact, I'm calling upon Tucker Carlson to speak about that. I know what Charlie said to him, and I'm sure Tucker Carlson won't lie about it. What did Charlie say to you? Dave?
Because Tucker's never lied before.
What did Charlie say to you? What was Charlie? Did he seem like he was treading in the direction? Like, do we feel like what BB is saying is honest, a representation of what Charlie was going through? This is what I want. I think that the thing that we need here, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Now, does all of this...
Actually, disinfectant is not sunlight. Just by the way, medical advice, don't take from Candace. If you need disinfectant, don't use the sun. Use disinfectant.
Mean that Bibi Netanyahu and that this somehow proves that Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? No, we have no evidence of that. We can't...
25 minutes in. My friends, 25 minutes in. And she's like, oh, but we don't have evidence that Bibi Netanyahu was behind the assassination. After spending 25 minutes literally insinuating and just destroying his name. Like coming after him left, right, and center saying, by the way, I just want to be really clear. Let's say Charlie had turned. Let's say he hated Israel now. That's not the kind of thing until you have proper evidence and proof that you should go about spewing and saying when the guy dedicated so much of his life to loving Israel. Let's say he had really turned and it was the biggest PR nightmare for Israel. So what? So be it. Candace, you turned and nobody came after you. Nobody tried to kill you. You turned and Tucker turned. And yes, we wanted to invite you to Israel so that you could see with your eyes that you've lost the plot and you're falling for Qatar. And you're falling for the exact thing that you've been calling on the left. You're just falling for it. They manipulated you on the right. Okay, so if we heard that Charlie was turning, maybe we wanted to do something about it. Potentially. So what? Is that the way you besmirch his entire name and his reputation? Because by the way, I know you see it as a good thing, but the most of the world sees it as a bad thing. Most of the world sees that Qatar is manipulating you and lying to you. And so we wouldn't want to defile his reputation like that and actually focus on the good things he was focused on. I know it's hard for you to understand.
Say that because there is no evidence of that. But I don't like little lies. That's what I will say. Something that I always say in my household is when there is one lie, there's 20. There's no reason to lie. Bibi could have gone on Fox News and he could have told the truth. He could have said truthfully that Charlie Kirk has always loved Israel. He has always loved Israel as the Holy Land. He's been here many times. And throughout his career, he has been a faithful supporter of Israel. That's not what he said. Okay. He talks about the phone call and didn't give it the proper context. He held up the letter and didn't give it the proper context. And lies by severe omission, I'd like to be very clear, are lies.
You would know because you are the queen of lies by severe omission. Netanyahu gave a speech about Charlie and he chose whatever the heck he wanted to speak about. Yes, maybe you would have written a different speech, but guess what? You, unfortunately, were not chosen as Netanyahu's spokesperson. He and his team decided what he wanted to speak about, and it is not up to you to decide what and how he did that. It's just none of your business. He is allowed to say whatever he wants. Like, for example, you chose to speak only about the Yee song. I'm pretty sure that that's not the only thing Charlie Kirk wants to be remembered as the guy who loves Kanye West. I think there's many other memories that you could have chosen, but you didn't. And Bibi Netanyahu has the right, believe it or not, to choose whatever the heck he wants to speak about. And he doesn't need to provide all of the context and all the receipt the way that you would like it. But you have now spent 25 minutes of your time, of one of the most watched episodes that you've ever done, just focusing on that. You could have started this episode. You could have We'll get to that in a second. Oh,
Lies by severe omission are lies.
yes.
You're not going to gaslight us and tell us to shut up or call us anti-Semitic for pointing out the fact that Charlie was having a change of heart about the tactics that Israel was using in America, and that he felt when he had left that meeting that he had effectively been blackmailed.
We are not gaslighting you. You don't know that he's been blackmailed or that he felt that he was being blackmailed. You are out there making this stuff up. And even if he did have a change of heart, so be it. But you're the one gaslighting us. I can see it. I can see right through it. You are gaslighting me.
Again, my platform is yours, Seth Dillon. My platform is yours, Bill Ackman. So if you want to clarify it, we can do it in front of millions. Okay.
I would absolutely love to see tomorrow on her next episode, her talking about the things that I just spoke about. Exposing. I want her to read out Bill Ackman and say, hey, I'm so sorry, you're correct. Here's your response. And I want her to read out the guys who were at this conference thing and read out their response and say, yeah, okay, that's legit.
And I think that that's what people deserve, because everyone has PTSD. We watched Charlie get shot in the throat. That feels a little bit symbolic. It feels like they wanted us to know that his voice was problematic. Again, I don't know who they is. After we take this brief break, we're going to go through the investigation, which seems to have a lot of inconsistencies and holes in it. And we're definitely not yet at the bottom of what in fact took place. But I do know that I severely distrust people who rush to misrepresent things. And it's not a good sign when somebody has to ask you, as Greta Van Susteren asked Bibi Netanyahu in his secondary hit regarding Charlie Kirk's assassination. It's not a good sign if somebody even has to ask if you did have anything to do with the assassination. Doesn't make you a great person. Okay.
You know the reason that they had to do that? Because people like you are spewing so much hate online that it's become the online rhetoric. And despite the fact that so many people don't agree with it, you guys haven't stopped pushing the Israel's behind it. So yes, you would ask Bibi Netanyahu about it. It is not a good sign, but you're the one who instigated it. You're the one who made it happen. Nobody would be talking about Israel as the assassinators of Charlie Kirk if you hadn't created it. And by the way, there are so many bots out there who support it and push this. So many accounts out there that are run by Pakistani who are insane and run by Russia and China who are trying to propagate this idea that it was Israel. Israel. And you are working for them and doing their dirty work. Why was Bibi asked about it? Because of people like you pushing the narrative. Not because it's any truth to it. Not because of that.
And that's what she asked him. Take a listen.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the
started by
Kirk,
Candace, yeah. Internet rumors
murder.
started by Candace.
You know, I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane.
It is insane.
Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing it's not only insane. I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this, but they go. They have no limits. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything and promote all these absurd rumors. And by the way, they're willing to kill us all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things. That continued actually up to the Holocaust. The Nazis said the same thing. We're carrying vermin. We're spreading disease. And people believed it, and every time they believed it, this was a prelude to a greater and greater massacre, culminating with the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust.
Well, he's mentioned the Holocaust. Guess we can't prod the narrative any further, guys.
Well, no, actually, Candace, I've heard you use this argument all the time, like, the Jews always come back to the Holocaust. The Jews always come back to the Holocaust. It's actually, first of all, 6 million people being murdered is actually a really big deal. But what's more of a big deal is not the fact that they were murdered, it's the fact that societies allowed for it to happen. And how do they allow for it to happen? Because of negative Israel rhetoric. The reason, negative Jewish rhetoric. The reason this keeps coming up is not because we don't want people to ever have any other excuses, but rather because when there are people like you who are out there constantly dehumanizing other humans, dehumanizing Jewish people and Israeli people, etc., to the point that there are people who feel so comfortable to hate on us and want us dead and justify murders and celebrate terrorists, that is something that was a big red light for society, the Holocaust. And I know you have this thing about anti-Semitism and the Jews are always just trying to use the Holocaust. I don't think it's about using the Holocaust. I think it's factual. I think there are certain facts on the table. For example, a fact on the table is COVID was really, really not cool and we all got manipulated. And for the next 100 years, COVID will be used as an example of manipulation and you will use it. Charlie Kirk will be used for the next 100 years as an example of free speech that was tried to get shot. The Holocaust, which wasn't even 100 years ago, is going to be an example of how media manipulation allows for mass murdering and genocide. Okay? FYI, do you know who's using the same exact strategy? Hamas. They are media manipulating people like you to allow for a genocide of their people by them, not by us. They're allowing for themselves to murder as many Palestinians as they can and to murder as many Jews as they can because people like you are propagating their mouthpieces. It's very simple. It's not using the Holocaust as a get-free card. It's using it as a sign of what actually happened. Factual history. You just don't like it because it's a little uncomfortable to know that you're a little Nazi yourself.
Holocaust. So everybody's just stopped talking about anything. I mean, hey, he's the victim. It's absurd. It's just absurd. The Holocaust happened. You heard him. We're sick of this shit.
I'm sick
of you.
Are.
And there will be no narrative that I will not prod when it comes to figuring out why people are lying about the state that Charlie was in when it came to the topic of Israel again.
Why don't you push the question of bots? Why bots want everyone to believe it's Israel? Why don't we talk about that for a second? Why don't we talk about the lefty and the tranny thing? Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about Qatar? Why don't we talk about any of the other things? Any of the other things possible? Why choose just Bibi Netanyahu? It's very, very unbecoming, Candace.
You can examine Charlie in his own words. He was starting to talk about topics that you're not really allowed to talk about when you take money and big checks are being written. And that pressure was increasing every single day. In fact, he was telling the truth even about Jeffrey Epstein. Take a listen.
Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun. Maybe he was just the guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis. Jeffrey Epstein was not a financier. He was not a hedge fund manager. Jeffrey Epstein was a key player in a multi-decade blackmail operation against the most powerful people on the planet.
Okay, number one, there's this thing that people do that the second somebody's died that you have to memorialize. Everything they've said is all true. Okay, second of all, it's very possible, but here's what Charlie does, which is not what Candace does. He says, maybe it's the Mossad, maybe it's America, maybe it's the Saudis, maybe he's individually hired. Okay, we don't yet know what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein. It is very confusing. We want to figure it out. I want to figure it out as well. Maybe it was Israel. Maybe it wasn't Israel. We don't know. We just know that the whole story is suspicious. That, my friends, is how you present something which is fair. To insinuate that Israel was going after Charlie because he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein, are you deranged? There's so many other people. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We all know that Jeffrey Epstein thing is a little bit weird. All of us. And if it's Israel, okay, interesting. If it's America, even more interesting. If it's Saudi Arabia or Qatar, very interesting. If it's Europe or an individual, very interesting. There's a whole blackmail thing going on here. It's super interesting. However, we don't have any facts or knowledge that this is an Israel thing. And therefore, to go so far as to say, look, he said that maybe Jeffrey Epstein was the Mossad, therefore Israel killed him, is nuts. And that's exactly what you're insinuating. He's talking about things that are a little bit dangerous. He's talking about Jeffrey Epstein because the entire world is talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Like, you've jumped so many steps.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems to conflict with Bibi's narrative a little bit. Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Nothing to do with
I do
Bibi's
want to
narrative.
say this. It's important because I am angry. I will obviously, I pray to move on from this phase, but it's a fire in my belly right now.
A fire in your belly.
To those of you who think that you are going to replace Charlie Kirk, okay? Kings are born.
She is talking now to Ben Shapiro directly, who's another Jew that she doesn't like, okay?
You don't just get to depose and tell us that we're going to follow this individual, okay? I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA. You put a shill in Charlie Kirk's chair, in Charlie Kirk's company, and you try to tell us to follow that individual, I will be an enemy of you. There will be nothing that can stop me. Okay. And I want you guys to understand, this is not a threat. This is a promise. There will be nothing that can stop me. I will release every single text message. So to those of you who are trying that, I'm seeing the messages. I am telling you to back off right now.
Ooh, scary.
Right now. Don't do it. Okay. Don't you think about it. I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you were that were exerting pressure. Don't you pretend to be noble now and say nice things about Charlie Kirk and think you're going to slide into his chair, okay? Over my dead body, which I'm sure can be arranged.
Oh, make it all about her. Again, she's directly talking to Ben Shapiro, who said that he's going to go on campuses and debate because that would be a fair and honest way to commemorate Charlie. And she's saying, how dare you? I don't want you to have his throne. I want to have his throne. Number one, that's what she's saying. I'm a Mason of Turning Point. I have more right to it. And also my dead body. That could be arranged. They're coming after me.
Now, I'm going to take a pause. We're going to go to some sponsors, and then we're going to get into what we are being told by the agencies. There are definitely some holes. Maybe more is coming out.
Okay, guys. 32 minutes of her episode in which she says they're lying to you about Charlie Kirk, and she provides zero evidence. 4 Jews she goes after: Seth Dillon, Ben Shapiro, Bill Ackman, and who's the 4th? Bibi Netanyahu. She goes after 4 Jews. That is the entire premise of the episode. Don't you dare take his seat. Bill Ackman, you're a billionaire trying to manipulate. Seth Dillon, you're a liar who's just trying to get out of this. And Bibi Netanyahu, you've made this all about you. 32 minutes of her episode. She then goes on. We're not going to go down and break it all because it's way too long and it's way too late. But number one, Jew sponsors. After she went after Nick Fuentes, being like, how dare you monetize off of his death? Sponsors in this episode, which you would think if she was doing it altruistically she wouldn't do. And then she goes on to kind of tackle all the different reasons why the FBI is lying to her. One of my favorites is that she's like, after 33 hours he hadn't changed his clothes. He was arrested in the same clothes. Like, that's so suspicious. Do you not think he would have showered or something? And I'm like, yeah, that is suspicious. That's so weird. Wow, she's gotten to me. Because then I thought about it and I said, well, we know his father arrested him or whatever, locked him up. So you'd presume he came home, the father clocked, immediately tied him up, and then spent a few hours trying to figure out what the heck he was going to do, because he knew by giving up his son, he was going to send his son to a death sentence. And that's a really hard decision as a father to make. But he also knew that he had to give his son in. And so he was sitting there with a very complicated debate, and he probably didn't let his son just shower or run away at that time. He probably kept him in the same clothes once he caught him. That's a very, very justifiable, credible response. But again, we're not going to talk about the ins and outs of what the FBI is hiding. What I will say is that Trump and J.D. Vance were very close to Charlie. This meant a lot to them. And she insinuates the entire time the FBI, the government, they're trying to hide stuff from us. They're trying to hide stuff from us after telling us that, you know, you should buy this and spend money on this because she needs to just make more money off of Charlie Kirk's death because she just can't help herself. But if there's anybody who's vested in making sure that this is that we figure out what happened, it is Trump and JD. JD has proven himself to be an absolute friend of Charlie Kirk from the end to the beginning. And Trump, who was almost assassinated twice, I think he feels this quite closely. He owes a lot to Charlie, and he's very grateful to him. The two of them, believe it or not, might actually be doing their work to try and figure it out. Now, there might be holes in the story. I don't actually know. I'm not an FBI agent. I don't pretend to be one like Charlie, like Candace does. I don't know. I don't understand it. But I do know that if the two people in power in the country are trying to figure it out, then if there's a chance to figure it out, they will. She doesn't talk about that. She never brings them up, really, to talk about it. She just spent 32 minutes spewing Jew hatred and Israel hatred down anyone's throats with zero receipts, with zero proof. She made up and fabricated an entire story, and she's expecting you to fall for it, you to believe it. And the fact that people are so afraid to stand up to her and so afraid to kind of come after her because of her threats just makes me even angrier. She has no shame. She has taken Charlie Kirk's death, something that is of so much importance to so many people, something that should be of so much importance to her, and she has managed to make it all about her and her hatred and the things that she wants the world to believe, and actually nothing to do with his legacy. Nothing. A very, very poignant way and thing that she could have done was brought Erica onto the show and asked her what she thinks about this, but no, she wouldn't do that. And she could have started the episode with the facts of the investigation, which is what people really want to know about, but no. She only gets to that 35 minutes in. The first 32 minutes, and those 3 minutes of advertisement, the first 32 minutes are used to just spew hatred and false claims and blood libels for the Jews. It's shocking. It's actually shocking, and it's disgusting, and it is such a cynical use of his death. It's infuriating. My blood is boiling, and every single point that she makes, you can prove out the hypocrisy, the lies, the lack of receipts, the way she's trying to manipulate every single one of them. It is so simple and so easy. She speaks with such conviction, with such power, with such, I know exactly what's going on, and I have every right to talk about this. And she does, because America has free speech, as we all know. But you can't fall for it. Don't believe it. We've just, in an hour and a half of me just free talking, we've been able to expose every single thing she says. None of it's based on any sort of evidence. None of it's credible. None of it's actually true. There's nothing in what she said that actually has any sort of credibility to it, or is the only way that you could see it. Maybe there's other ways to look at it and understand it. This is what Candace does the best. This is what she's so good at it. Manipulating and gaslighting you into seeing things a certain way. She takes you down a road that she wants you to already have come to the outcome that she's come to, instead of actually presenting you the information and allowing you to think for yourself. She is such a disgrace to Charlie and his memory. And I really hope he's up there doing something to make her pay for this, because it's just embarrassing and sad. Just so sad. But no, Israel's not behind the murder of Charlie Kirk. I can say that for sure. He was a true friend to Israel. And even if he disagreed with things like AIPAC and American control and Israel control, and there was a lot of confusion, he believed in free speech more than he believed in, not giving Tucker Carlson a stage. So be it. Charlie was a good person, a family person, a faith person, a parent. He was a good person, and all she is doing here is defiling his reputation. So just don't fall for it. That's what I'm asking. Don't fall for it. Even if there are receipts that Bibi Netanyahu is doing something a little bit manipulative. Okay, he's a politician. He's a little bit allowed to. And even if there is proof that Charlie was turning on Israel, so what? So what? It doesn't prove anything, and it doesn't discredit all of the years of good that he did. And that's what I want you guys to remember, that despite the fact there are people who are using and abusing this death in such a cynical way to manipulate you into hatred, Charlie would have wanted light. Charlie would have wanted positivity. Charlie would have wanted you to be connected to your religion, to your faith, and to your good side, and to your family, and to be a happy person, a person who earns his right to society, and not a person who spends hours spewing hatred in any way that they can on the Jewish people and on Israel. That was a long hour and a half. Anyways, I hope you guys survived if you reached this point. I'm ERK. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you need to do so we can get this message out. Share with whoever you know so that we can remind the world that Candace has actually completely and totally lost the plot. Thank you for your attention to this matter.